Hello, thanks for tuning in and welcome to the pool party. I hope you can swim because we're definitely diving into the deep end with a huge splash of truth, facts, evidence, information, and proof. Swim. Say what you mean. It's talk about talking. How we listen, how we hear, how we speak, how we hear what we're listening to when we speak, how a listener hears what we're saying, if what we're saying, what they're actually hearing and or understanding. Is it clear? Swim. Say what you mean. Well, that's just the beginning of understanding, because after we get that understanding, how do we accept it? How we respond if it's not what we expect is paramount. Are you okay with the truth? Are you man, woman, human, or spiritual enough to accept the truth? Let's find out. Welcome to The Swimming Pool with your host, Travis Bridges. Welcome to The Swimming Pool with your host, Travis Bridges. There's something weird about saying your own name, and I don't know if anyone else feels that. There's got to be some kind of weirdness that goes on psychologically and emotionally with saying your own name. So I'm going to say it just to see if I feel that. Travis Bridges. It's not like saying Jamarquez Jones. You know, it's not like saying somebody else's names. When am I the only one? When I say my own name, it just feels kind of funny. How about you? Do you feel funny when you say your own name? I'm going to say it. Travis Bridges. It's like, it's like feedback. Like if you're talking to a microphone and you're standing right in front of the speaker, it feeds back. I think your brain has a type of feedback thing. Try it one time. Say your own name. And does it feel funny to you, or am I just the only one? I'm probably just the only one. I probably figured it's just kind of a weird thing that I do. Well, anyway, good evening and welcome to the pool party. It's the swimming pool. I'm Travis Bridges. It's the swimming pool. SWIM, SWYM. It's the acronym for say what you mean. It's important that we say what we mean. Why? Because your word is your bond. And you shouldn't say something if you don't mean it. And you shouldn't mean something if you don't say it. However that goes. Anyway, we're celebrating Black History Month, and we're like right in the middle of it. Here's hoping you had a fantastic Valentine's. It's amazing that Valentine's is in the same month as Black History in the USA. And Black History is not something that I really heavily get into, but I just participate. It's just like many other holidays. You know, I'm not big on a lot of different holidays, but I just kind of sort of participate so that I can feel and look normal and not maybe look out of place. But, you know, it's a good thing. You know, some people say, you know, why do we have a Black History Month? I think it was Morgan Freeman. Google Morgan Freeman and his opinion on Black History Month. He had some good points about why do we need it. And I kind of agreed with him, but you know, I'm not the one who makes those decisions, and I can participate or not. And just so happen, because I have a live stream, I'm going to participate. So happy Black History Month and happy belated Valentine's Day to you, especially if you have a Valentine to celebrate with. Anyway, Christine, hey, and Kimberly, hey, how y'all doing? I'm going to continue from last week. I'm spotlighting. I thought I would have a whole bunch of different contributors, but I'm going to stick with Muhammad Ali because it's still on my mind. So I'm going to play my insert from last week. If you were here last week, or if you watched or tuned in, don't get bored. I promise you, I'm in a different place. Look at my face. The guy you're seeing this week is not necessarily the guy you saw last week in a lot of ways. I'm the same guy, of course, not like I got a whole bunch of different personalities, crazy. But, you know, things have changed so much. You know, you can look at a person, there's this saying that says, thank God I don't look like what I've been through. And if you are kind of sort of religious or kind of churchy, you might understand what that means, because it's one of those statements that was born in the church. Thank God I don't look like what I've been through. Well, the last few months, the last year or so, I've been through a lot. And the last few weeks anyway has been a little intense, not in a bad way, just, heavy decision making. And this time last week, I was in a whole different mindset. And this week, I am free. What's her name? Nina Simone, one of my favorite artists. She has a song about being free. And this week I had to make some tough decisions that put me in a different place. I was always free, but there's a different level of freedom that I'm experiencing today. So look at the face and look into the eyes of a guy who's a week more free than he was a week ago. With that being said, I'm going to go back over the 3 things that I have for Muhammad Ali as he talked about what happened to him by deciding to not participate in a particular war or join the armed forces. We're going to talk about that for a little bit. But then I have a guest that's going to come on, and I can't get my guest until 9:30. So I've got to fill up space until I get my guest. Last week, I couldn't get my guest on because the connection just wasn't cool. So hopefully, if my guest doesn't come on with me at 9:30, I'm probably just going to end the live stream. But remember, I've been promising you that it's going to be cool. It's going to be something huge. It's going to be big. Well, now that I can be established a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and implement some of those things I've been promising you. So thank you for hanging in there with me. I promise you I'm going to have some really good content. And then I'm going to really get to use my broadcasting skills that I've been kind of holding off on. Right now, I've just been getting into the video aspects of being live. It's been tough for me because I'm used to just the microphone, the audio portion of broadcasting, but hardly ever did I ever have any experience in TV, the video effects. But everybody's doing things different thanks to the pandemic, and this is one of the things that I'm doing different. Guess what else is going to happen? I'm going to bring back it's not going to be the COVID concert series, maybe the post-COVID concert series, but I'm going to bring that back, and I'm going to do some more live stuff, and it's just going to be a new me and a new season, and I'm excited about it. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Appreciate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a short break, and when I come back, I'm going to jump right in on my Muhammad Ali bit and his contribution to Black history. We're going to talk about that. But I was going to tell you, I do have something special. I was able to obtain, through a very close and reliable source, a text message between 2 people that was so close to things that resonated with me that I was able to, and I got permission to use it. So I'm not going to call the names of the 2 people involved in the text message, but I'm going to read a back and forth about someone talking about an experience that I recently shared in terms of being abroad and being in a different country and their views on, the effects of slavery and stuff like that. It's real interesting. So I'm going to read that, and hopefully that'll take us down to the bottom of the hour so that I can get in with my guest. But I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, I'm going to jump right in on my Muhammad Ali bit, talk about that a little bit, and then go into that conversation just before my guest. So do me a favor, hold the spot you got. I'll be right back.
Mighty Horn Music. Smooth jazz, top 40, R&B, inspirationals, and more. Live from the Hollywood Home Studio. Like, share, subscribe. And thanks for tuning in. The Swimming Pool with Travis Bridges is a talk segment about talking. Talk about talking? Yes, talk about talking. It's designed to bring awareness to how we listen, how we hear, and what we do with the information we receive during communication. The mind is automatically programmed to protect the body and soul. It displays that through each and every encounter we experience. If any part of the body is threatened, the mind will automatically issue the flight command. The flight command to retreat to safety. Well, that same command is also deployed when our ego is threatened. The ego, yes, the ego. It's so natural and common, it happens oftentimes without us even knowing. Engaging in conversation and staying focused on what is present is considered mental fitness. It strengthens our emotions and helps us to gain control of our circumstances instead of having our circumstances overtake our thinking and our very existence. It's a difficult task to achieve because our feelings, beliefs, and desires are so strong that it causes us to totally disregard even the most common or basic reasoning. This live stream is only here to bring awareness to that subconscious process. Nothing or no one is actually wrong. However, the idea of being open to anything outside of what we've already concluded is golden, especially if the new information is transparent. The Swim developers would like to say thanks for supporting, watching, listening, and sharing this information. Now, back to the swimming pool. Let's dive in and swim.
Yeah, let's dive in and swim. Good evening once again and welcome back from the break. Really does feel like I'm on radio. The only difference between radio is that on radio you can't see me, but now you can see me. Hey, okay. Thank you very much. Just hoping you're having a wonderful Wednesday evening and thank you for tuning in. I just made a comment about things changing and getting better, maybe better for me because of the content and the way I'm going to do things. You know, I look at other live streams and I see how people have fancy stuff flashing and stuff like that. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to put my special touch and my special taste to what I know and what I've learned how to do. Because before COVID, I knew nothing about live streaming or definitely nothing about being in front of a camera regularly, especially being a host. What? Who? Me? Nah, not that guy. Anyway, I'm going to keep it moving. I'm going to play my 3 Muhammad Ali bits, and then I'm going to do my back and forth. I have a text message that I have obtained that is kind of in line with some of the things that I see, some of the views I have about slavery and America and the effects of it. And you know, it's a different opinion. It's like I'm not strong on really anything, but, you know, I have some input. So do me a favor, don't move. Enjoy this bit from the great Muhammad Ali as we celebrate Black History Month 2022.
That I have 2 alternatives: either go to jail or go to the army. But I would like to say that there is another alternative, and that alternative is justice.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Muhammad Ali has just refused to be inducted into the United States Armed Forces.
He refused induction on the grounds of his religious convictions on war.
My conscience won't let me go shoot my brother or some poor hungry people in the mud for big powerful America and shoot them for what? They never called me nigger.
You know, Muhammad Ali is really important in this because when Ali refuses induction, there's a famous column in the New York Times written by Tom Wicker where he just wonders out loud what would happen if you had 100,000 Muhammad Alis. You had 100,000 people who were prepared to do what Muhammad Ali just did. You would bring this war to a stop. So the draft resistors set that kind of as a goal.
It took an all-white jury less than a half hour to find Muhammad Ali guilty of all charges and specifications. He was sentenced to the maximum, 5 years in prison, and was fined $10,000.
No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't.
I find nothing amusing or interesting or tolerable about this man. He's a disgrace to his country, his race, and what he laughingly describes as his profession. He has been found guilty. He is out on bail. He will inevitably go to prison, as well he should. He's a simplistic fool and a pawn.
Do you share the same concern that Muhammad has for his draft status?
Oh, I certainly do. My views on the draft are very clear. I'm against it. And I think the sooner our country does away with the draft, the better it will be for everybody.
Dr. Martin Luther King says, I certainly do. That was interesting. Anyway, here's part 2 of that before I get into my text message that sort of resonates. Hang on, okay?
First of all, I would like to thank the student governing body for inviting me here to speak at this beautiful and worthy occasion tonight. And I would also like to congratulate them on their great, splendid stand to stop the bloody war that's now going on in Vietnam. And as a Muslim minister, my own outlook on war and violence is well known by now. And I would like to say that the number one greeting in my faith is peace, and that is Assalamu alaikum, which means may peace be unto you. There have been many questions put to me why I refuse to be inducted into the United States Army, especially as some have pointed out, many have pointed out, when not taking the step, I will lose so much. And I would like to say to those of the press and those of the people who think that I lost so much by not taking the step, I would like to say that I did not lose a thing up until this very moment. I haven't lost one thing. I have gained a lot. Number one, I have gained a peace of mind. I have gained a peace of heart. I now know that I'm in content with Almighty God Himself, whose proper name is Allah. I have also gained the respect of everyone here today. I have not only gained the respect of everyone here today, but worldwide I have gained the respect. People all over the world. And by taking the step, may have satisfied a few people who are pushing the war. Even if the wealth of America was given to me for taking the step, the wealth of America and the friendship of all of the people who support the war, this will still be nothing if I am not content internally and if I'm not in accord with the will of Almighty Allah. As you read the newspapers and the press now, you see that I am now in court. I am in court seeking justice under the laws of the land. In this country, the United States of America, ministers are exempt from the armed services. And if they choose, I am a Muslim minister and a teacher of the religion of Islam. It has been said that I have two alternatives: either go to jail or go to the army. But I would like to say that there is another alternative, and that alternative is justice. And if justice prevails, I will neither go to the army nor will I go to jail. They say that actually every time that I enter the ring, in a way, I'm going to war. They say to me daily, you are a prize fighter. What's the difference? And I like to say to those critics of the press and to the others that there is one hell of a lot of difference in fighting in the ring and going to war in Vietnam. Boxing is nothing like going to war with machine guns, bazookas, hand grenades, bomber airplanes. My intention is to box to win a clean fight. But in war, the intention is to kill, and continue killing innocent people. That's what the business in war. I would like to hear this from you. And I want the world and the cameras to hear. Who's the heavyweight champion of the world? And I'm very pleased and thankful for being here. And that's all I would like to say. Thank you very much.
He asked a question that he knew the answer to. That's some kind of psychological term. I don't know what it is. When you ask a question that you actually know the answer to. That's what the champ did on that day when he said, who's the heavyweight champion of the world? And then he wanted everybody to say, you are, or the greatest, or Muhammad Ali. Now, as I was listening to that, it's just like anything else. When you hear something and you hear it more than one time, you hear something totally different. One of the critics said a lot of things about him and called him a fool and said a lot of things. What happened was he refused to join the armed forces because he did not want to go to war because it was against his particular religious beliefs, and he just didn't believe in fighting, people that he thought were innocent who never really did anything to him. And what he did was he stood up against that, and he got a lot of blowback from that. And they did threaten him. They did kind of, hold him in contempt, and they actually put him away. I think he may have gone to jail for a little while. He was definitely arrested. But as he said, if justice prevailed, that he wouldn't go to war or have to join the armed forces. And clearly he was let out and he didn't go. So maybe justice did prevail. And there's something about standing up for the right thing. People who do that really do catch a lot of flack. And it's unfortunate because as human beings, we know right from wrong. We would not want anyone to do anything. There's a saying that goes like this, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I like to say it this way, don't do unto others as you would not have them do unto you. And if you're doing something that's harming somebody, it may not harm you, but if someone says, okay, this hurts, you can't say, well, because I like it, don't worry about it. We have to be respectful of people's views and their thoughts and their comments. And what he was being forced to do was against him. It was hurting him, and he didn't want to be a part of it. It's just like, many other great leaders who stood up against and who still continue to stand up against injustices. Why doesn't people in power, listen to things that are just common and humane? Of course, the best thing I think the best scripture is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and or don't do unto others as you would not have them to do unto you. Nobody would want to be whipped or beaten or stolen from their homeland and sold off and treated like animals or 1/5 of a human or whatever the percentage is. So why would you do it to somebody else? Because, you're mean or, why? It's just, it's just not cool. And it's just something that, as I've had to witness, has not been comfortable for me to digest. But I'm going to get a call from my caller, and I don't want to be late. So I'm going to get this text message. As I was saying, I had the pleasure and privilege of obtaining a text message between two people, and I did get permission to use this, and it kind of resonated with some of the things that I feel. So I'm going to try to read it. Now, you're not going to know who's saying what because I'm not calling the names of where this text message came from, but I'm going to try to read and edit because there's some words in here that may not be fit for this family program. So as I read, I'm going to try to remember to edit on the spot. But it's two people having a conversation that kind of sort of fits in with what's going on with some of my own thoughts and feelings, as well as it relates to, Black history and the history of America. So again, this is a conversation between two people, and I'm going to try my acting skills here and change the voice when I'm reading one person and then change the inflection, when I'm reading the other one. And maybe you can go back and rewind this and listen to see who's saying what. But bear with me as I read, this text message. And it starts off like this, that says, one person is talking about, the country, and another person is just giving a different perspective. So listen, it's interesting. And I hope I don't butcher, the text message. So again, bear with me. You ready? You ready? Good. Okay. One person says, America is the home of the free and the land of the free and the home of the brave. And the other person says more like the land of the free and the home of the slave. And the other person says slavery is worldwide. Slavery is a worldwide issue. The other person says, of course it is, but not like American slavery, though. And then the other person says, it's illegal and we are citizens. How long are we going to have that victim mentality? I sure don't. Then the other person says, there are many Black people then and now who were and are content with being a slave. When those who conform are content, they criticize those who at least realize the difference. If someone is happy on the hamster wheel, don't say others are ill because they don't want to ride that Ferris wheel. Mostly privileged non-Black people look at the less fortunate and call them mentally ill or self-sabotaging, or that they have a victim's mentality. What else does one expect from a victim? The oldest trick of the enemy is to take the truth and flip it, and people who are real victims find themselves defending themselves about the truth. LOL. Just like a dog is expected to bark, a victim should be expected to speak out. The 1%ers actually think that about the other 99 and so on. The other person says, tell me how you're a slave today in America compared to being in any other different country. Then a person says, okay, I will answer that question, but I would like clarity first. Are you asking that because you think that I am a slave? No, are you asking me that because you think that I am a slave or because you heard me say that I am? The other person says, no, because you said America is home of the slave, and I assume you are referring to your current experiences. The other person said, you assumed? America is definitely the home of the slave, and no other country did slavery the way America did it. Are you at least in agreement with that? Yes or no? That sounds like me for sure. America is also the home of hip hop and entertainment, and no other country has done it the same. No. America is also home of baseball, and although Cuba is a close second, wink, no one does baseball or American football the way we do it. No. Did you know that at the peak of slavery, America produced more cotton in 100 years than the rest of the entire world did in 400 years? Then the other person says, you're talking about things in the past that is currently frowned upon and illegal. It is no longer the home for that. Then the other person says, like turning off an oven, it's still hot for a long time. The culinary arts calls that carryover cooking. Do you think the effects of practices of slavery, systematic slavery, has gone away totally? Yes or no? Before you answer, American slavery lasted every bit of 400 years plus. No, American slavery lasted every bit of 400 plus years, and civil rights laws were still being argued just 60 years ago and still some today. Many people still complain about the unfair injustices and still are very prevalent that are still prevalent at this very moment. Just watch the news for 5 minutes. Because people aren't legally being sold and whipped and have a job, do we want to call it over and not talk about the effects of the clearly obvious aftermath to the many affected most by it? People who are embarrassed by it, ashamed of it, and the main ones who still benefit from it really want it to go away. But heat doesn't die just because there's no flame. Not talking about it and saying it's over really only fuels that flame even more. It's just like anything else. When you don't acknowledge it and rectify it, it continues to grow and spread. It's called the original sin for a reason. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, not doing anything about injustice is as bad as doing it. The term house N-word came from those that were comfortable, who had that little piece of the pie and was not affected by those who were mostly affected. Those were the worst kind. To attempt silence on someone else's pain is slavery within itself. Racism is definitely an overused word, and there are many people who are self-inflicted victims, but that is not the obvious point in any facet whatsoever. The other person says, most of the time people scream about the stove being hot when they were given the ability to turn it off a long time ago. That's my point. You never really answered the question about how this directly applies to you. The other person says, well, I apologize for not answering your question, but the question does not directly apply to me, and that I don't feel like I'm a slave in the USA. However, because of slavery, the effects of it, and the fact that it has never been openly acknowledged, apologized for, rectified, and actually done away with, particularly by the government, the effects of it creates an emptiness that those affected by it most by literally suppress and lives with. And most, as Harriet Tubman said, if they knew they were slaves, they too could free themselves. Another country may not be void of racism or discrimination, but the effects of American slavery within my DNA was void of that at least. Another country may not be void of racism or discrimination, but the effects of slavery within my DNA was void of it at least that initial feeling while I was away. Wow, that sounds like me. Many non-black people have said to black people who complain about injustices, if they don't like it, then leave or go back to Africa. Well, I don't choose to go back to Africa, but the idea that I can go somewhere else is freeing within itself. Not many people can or will. The fact that the US dollar stretches greater than 55% in other countries alone is a great incentive and motivation. The idea that I can invest there and help to secure a financial future, not only for my children, but my children's children, is an incentive and motivation as well. Wow. Greater than 90% of the food is organic, locally grown, and affordable with my US dollar. The housing and living experience with my US dollar is less than half the cost for me. When I look off into the distance and see the greenery, smell the mountain air, and experience the dimensions of the terrain, it feels like home and gives me a freeing experience thus far anyway. I get it. Not everyone wants to be free, and the idea that being comfortable is satisfying. Many people will never leave the front yard, especially if they have a little pipeline security. Even in my short lifetime, I have watched the USA change in ways that have not been better or beneficial for certain citizens in terms of the cost of living alone. This country was founded and still is being built on greed, selfishness, and hate. A black man in this country, unless he is from wealth or becomes an athlete or performer, starts out in society at the very bottom. Acting as if there is no truth to that does not make it go away. Of course, I am blessed and have chosen a different path based on a little knowledge I have been able to gain or obtain. But I don't forget those who are indeed less fortunate and may not have had the opportunities that I have had, including the ones that I have embarked upon lately in looking to get out of this place. Although I won't be leaving immediately or staying anywhere other than home, what I have gained in experience in other countries will help me to be a better individual and American. Man, that sounds so much like my circumstances, but I'm going to leave it right there. That was interesting to me, and I don't know if you got anything out of it or if you thought it was boring, but I didn't. I thought it was cool. And now it's a little after 9:30. I should be waiting for my caller so that we can talk about what we intended to talk about last week. So what I'm going to do is take another short break, and maybe I can get my caller on the line because my caller is definitely late right now. So do me a favor, hold the spot you got. I'll be right back.
Mighty Horn Music. Mighty Horn Music.
As time draws near and you plan your social events, call Mighty Horn Music for a party you and your friends will never forget. From banquets, receptions, family reunions, and church functions to birthday, executive, or private parties, Mighty Horn delivers. Event packages include live musicians, psalmists, comedians, clowns, and a karaoke show that's guaranteed to make you laugh. Mighty Horn Music specializes in providing a variety of music to keep your guests going for hours. Mighty Horn Music. Let us create a custom sound for your special event. From start to finish, Mighty Horn Music will plan your theme, decorate, cater, and entertain your guests with class and style. This year, make your events live with Mighty Horn Music. Call 786-487-7338, 786-487-7338, or log on to mightyhornmusic.com and let's party.
Music is the universal tool that soothes the savage beast in everyone for every occasion. It's multi-purposed. Same prescription when you're sad, happy, or even in love. Music will either enhance what's already good or make better what's not as good. So, when you find your source of music, it's like anything else you maintain. If you respect it and treat it well, it will be there when you need it. Well, Mighty Horn Music is that type of place, and Travis Bridges is that type of guy. So, let's treat him right. Your love gifts are greatly appreciated. If you like what you hear, see, or feel during this live stream and you want to show off a little, simply follow the donation platforms on the bottom of your screen. Just remember, sharing is caring. It's better to give than to receive. And if you keep more than you need, you're just plain old greedy. Thanks for tuning in. Now, back to more Mighty Horn Music.
Now, back to more Mighty Horn Music and talk. I'll be glad when I can play that commercial and come back with my saxophone in my hand and be rocking the his house for y'all. That time is going to come real soon, and I just can't wait. Well, guess who I've got on the line? My guest from last week. Last week, the devil tried us, and we couldn't get our stuff going. But my guest is here with me today. Guess how are you?
We're doing quite well. We're doing quite well, thanks be to God. How are you?
Not bad at all, thank you. We don't have a whole lot of time, definitely as much as we had last week, but I'm going to try to get right on to it with some questions that I'm going to set you up for. Remember, I told you I was going to be not tricky, but I was going to kind of throw a couple of curveballs at you. You said you could, you can catch curveballs pretty good, correct?
Oh, yes. I'm better than that bench guy. I think his name was Johnny Bench. I think he played catcher.
Okay.
But even the wonderful catcher that the Miami
Marlins?
I can't think of it. Marlins.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they produce some pretty good catchers. So So I think I can do pretty good.
Okay. Well, as we are celebrating Black History Month, I had a particular Black History contributor that I had been talking about, and I want to ask you a couple of things. As a former serviceman yourself, I want first your opinion about the terminology dodging the draft, avoiding the armed forces, and or refusing to fight for the country. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about dodging the draft as a serviceman? Give me your thoughts first.
Well, I think this that the service is not for every man, and if you're not going to live up to the oath and to the traditions of being a U.S. serviceman, yes, going to dodge it. But now you're going to face the consequences there too, because there are laws that are subject to that. But I think the service is a great place, especially if you're not going to college, you don't have a guaranteed future, and you're looking for something to better yourself. To join the United States military service is not a bad idea. And so dodging it, yes, if you're not wanting to fight for the country, then you ought not want to live and appreciate the justices, the amenities that we have. So, if you're not going to do right, there's no sense in going in and worsening yourself, because that will happen. That will happen. And if you get out and then you don't have a honorable or a discharge that is suitable to help you get along in life, years down the road, you're going to wish you had not done that. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I turn a deaf ear. I turn a deaf ear to those that are dodging it, but at the same time, hey, this is not for you. Our lives are on the line. Our war is real. You know what I'm saying? And the enemy of war is war itself. And it's an injustice. I think, personally, to just turn you to go in the service and just not going to do anything right about it. I think that's downright injustice, and you need to just go ahead. It's not made for everybody. It's not made for everybody. And if you can do something better with your life, go right ahead. But then don't look at the man, and don't turn down the man that does has the idea in his heart to fight for his country. I think that's a great thing to do.
Okay, well, you made a comment, and if you were, one of the powers that be, and that was, your stance, the world would definitely be a different place. But the United States government doesn't feel that way. If you decide that it's not for you for whatever reason, they will indeed do what you said. They will make you pay the consequences. And there are many people who either went AWOL or who refused to either join the forces, especially the draft, that they really did pay the cost. So your response is a pretty fair one. If you don't want it, if it's not for you and you don't want to fight, then okay, then don't go. But that's not the way it is. And now, for the sake of time, I want to talk about someone very famous and very popular. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, that he was accused of dodging the draft and refusing to serve the country. And are you familiar with the greatest, Muhammad Ali, and his stance on deciding to not go to war or join the armed forces? Are you at least familiar with his stance?
I am. I am very familiar with his stance.
Okay, so he was one of those people that you just talked about. It wasn't for him. He refused to go. They did make him pay the consequences, but he was eventually freed because, somebody spoke up for him, or as he said before he went, if justice prevailed, he wouldn't have to join the military, nor would he have to go to war. And sure enough, he didn't have to do either. It wasn't good for him, but he was the greatest. He was the champ. He was popular. A regular guy like me back then, if there were 100,000 Muhammad Alis and I was one of them that wasn't Muhammad Ali or with his popularity, I wouldn't have been so fortunate or lucky in his case. So what do you think about what happened to him? The fact that he was incarcerated and, stripped of his titles, but then let out. Was justice served or no?
I think it was. I think you first have to understand why he wasn't going in the beginning. That was for religious purposes. Okay, and his religion stood against that. Thou shalt not kill was one of the commandments of the religion that that he was serving. And through that, now here's what I like about what he did. He did not run away from it. Okay, he served his time. Okay, for religious purposes. Okay, was his foundation not to go to war, so he would not have to kill. Okay, and as a result of that, now he did serve his time, and afterwards, okay, he made a name for himself before he went out, before he was deemed to go into service, and when he took a stand against it, he served his time, and then he went on to make an even greater name. I support that. If you feel for religious purposes and you have the evidence to back it up, I think you're absolutely positively right. If that's your foundation. But what I do like about him, he never put the government down. He said what his religious preference said: "Thou shalt not kill." And you know, if you go to war, if you go to in the military, not all the military, there's wartime and there was peacetime. It was wartime when he was elected to go, and he was drafted. It's what it was. He was drafted to go, and there for many reasons, people will elect to go. Religious is one of the strongest ones. But now, if they deem it not necessary for him to go, and they declare that I don't too much like having to be locked, be put away in prison for something like that. But one thing I like about him, he served it. He never turned a bad face to it. He owned up to it the best of his ability. And that's why I believe not only as a champion in the ring, but as a person, he became to be a well-known and an idol for many.
Okay. Well, in that case, not only his religion, or not only religion, but humanity says thou shalt not kill. But you can't have a war without killing, according to the nations. You know, you got to kill somebody. Why is it acceptable for some and not for others? I mean, I'm not asking you that. It's just more of a statement. You know, if I don't want to kill, why should I be forced? Because many people were forced, and many people were actually killed who really didn't want to go, but they were afraid of the consequences. And although he did serve his time, he was definitely let out, you know, early, and he did not get the treatment that the average person would have gotten had they, you know, and those that did either dodge the draft or went AWOL. When you do that, you know, it's hard on you. And there are many people who stand up for injustices that, you know, the powers that be says, okay, this is the way it is because we say so, but it is inhumane or against certain religions. But, you know, not everybody gets to get out that easy. There are a lot of things that are inhumane or against religion or just not right or fair, but we don't get to dodge them, and we don't get to do a little bit of time or get, you know, some people say he just got his hand slapped, and, you know, he still was able to go on and continue to be the greatest. Had it been anyone else, that would not have happened. So not only does his religion or religion in general says thou shalt not kill, humanity says thou shalt not kill. And if you don't believe in something and you're forced and made to do it anyway, is that or is that not a form of slavery or a dictatorship? Yes or no?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, so slaves didn't want to go out and pick cotton, and they were whipped and made to do it. People that don't want to join the military or fight, you know, they are made to do it. That's not a form of slavery, no?
No, I think there's a difference.
There's definitely a difference. That's why I use the term a form. Is it a form of dictatorship or a form of slavery? When you're made to do something against your will, that is a control. Just like slavery, people didn't want to get whipped and beaten, sold off, but they were forced to do it. It just fell under slavery. But if you don't want to have to kill somebody or go have to fight, you know, for something someone else caused for whatever reason, you're saying that it's not a form of slavery or dictatorship?
No, I think they're standalone. Slavery has its own standalone, and I do support everything you said about slavery. But when it's going into the military, I think we have a choice. We do have a choice, so we can do exactly what the Honorable Muhammad Ali did. Remember, with the Muslim is one of the strongest religions in this world. And they did, they used everything to their ability to keep him away. Even in their loss of that trial of that case, he had to go to jail. Because back then there was a draft. There was a war going on. Okay, slavery and war are two different things. Okay, fighting for the country and being made. I don't think we are made to do that. I think we have to draft. We have to sign up for the draft. But in today's time, we don't have to go. We don't have to go. I think you sign up for the draft, and then I think it is wise to use the government to your ability, every form of the government to your ability before we can say something to that effect. And I think as a result of we're called to do something else. So slavery, I think, stands alone. So slavery, they were made to do something. Slaves were made to do something. They were made to do something.
And let me just interject. Hold on a second. But those who didn't, they were punished severely, and some were killed, absolutely. And some were they lost their limbs. It was wrong then. It's wrong now. Anytime you're made to do something that's against your will, or that's considered inhumane or against your religion, it's maybe not slavery. And that's why I'm using the term a form of slavery. You're saying that because it's war and because it's for the country, is that what makes it different? Because I realize it's a different thing, but is it kind of the same at all? You're saying it's not the same at all, because when you're made to do something that's against your heart, that's against your will, that's against your desire, that's a dictatorship. That's being forced to do something against your will. And being forced to fight or being forced to join any kind of organization that's against your will falls under that dictatorship or that form of slavery is what I'm saying. So I'm hearing you straight that it's not a form of slavery or a form of dictatorship in any kind of way because it's the American armed forces or some other foreign armed forces, or just because it's just not an injustice or a dictatorship or slavery or a form of slavery. I'm trying to make sure I hear you.
Yeah, I think it's not, because even today, yesterday, there was nothing you can do about slavery. They had to do what they had to do. Today it's wrong. It was wrong then. It is wrong now. When it comes to the military, I think, from what I know, even if you're drafted, there are laws. Okay, there are laws. You can go to court and defend yourself and be rendered guilty or not guilty. Something you can have rights. You have rights to different things, and you just have to go before the law to do them. Now, if the law proves, that you're prudent and that you're right, you don't have to go. If it proves that you're wrong, okay, then I would have mixed emotions on that one.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm not going to say you're wrong, right, good, bad, or ugly. I'm going to say what I was trying to get you to at least see, that it may not be the same, but it is a form of dictatorship. Just like slavery was wrong then, it's wrong now, and it's been rectified and to a certain level, and no certain people are not being whipped or beaten or sold off anymore. But there are different kinds of systematic slavery that goes on. I won't get into that. But going off and killing people against your will is also wrong then, and it's wrong now if you don't believe in that. So to say it's not a form of dictatorship or a form of slavery, I'm not going to say it's wrong because it's not the same, but I'm going to go ahead and respect the fact that you're saying, okay, no, it's not wrong and it's not the same. And I'm going to fight you on that. I'm going to do some more research because I think it is kind of, sort of, in a roundabout way, a form of dictatorship. You shouldn't be made to do something that you don't want to do. And if some people can get off for religious beliefs, I should be able to get off, or another person should be able to get off for religious beliefs, or just personal beliefs, religion or personal, whatever. If you don't want to do something, you shouldn't be forced to do it. Of course, there are rules, there's laws, and we're supposed to respect and obey the laws of the land. I get that, and I'm not going against it. Me personally, back then, I don't think I would have stood up against it. I would have gone, and if I had not returned back like many didn't, then so be it. So I give him respect for standing up and then being able to survive through that. Even some of the slaves who stood up against slavery, who were punished or beaten or lost limbs, I give them credit. I'm not going to say, that I wouldn't have done it. If I was in slavery time, I probably would have conformed too, from the fear. Even standing up and doing the right thing is just wrong. So I do think it's a type and a form of dictatorship and a type and a form of slavery. But I'm not going to fight you because you're my brother, and I'm not going to go fight somebody who ain't called me a bad name. So we don't need to be fighting anyway. So I'm not. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say I agree with you, but I'm not going to say I disagree with you. So we'll just leave it at that. And I'll give you the closing words. And we're right at the top of the time, so we can go. And let me thank you before you say that for joining me, particularly at the last minute. And I don't know what happened last week, but we'll let that be gone. Thank you for helping to support what I'm doing. I've got some great things on the way, and hopefully you'll join me at another time. But I'm going to give you the last closing words, particularly on how being forced to do something that you don't want to do is not a form of dictatorship or slavery. So go ahead, take the last words.
I will say being forced to do something would condone and support a form of slavery. I would say that. But I think we learned something from what Muhammad Ali, the Honorable Muhammad Ali did. And I think people that would effectively put that to work, would win. They give them an opportunity to win when they're being forced. I think the draft is for the draft. The draft is for wartime. And I do think you can, from what I know, you can be disqualified because you're made to go in. Don't mean they'll keep you in under certain pretense. But we've learned a great deal. We learned a great from the life of the Honorable Muhammad Ali, and then we also learned something great from those who have suffered from slavery. And I think we're better off where we are today. And if we use those things that are available to us, even if you feel like you've been made to do something, of course I fight against that. Of course I fight against that. I use all measure of the law to defend me before I would allow myself to do, even if it meant I had to do what the Honorable Muhammad Ali did. I'd rather go to jail, and serve time, rather than being on the front line to have to kill somebody, to be forced to have to kill somebody. I'm totally in support of that.
Okay, I want to interject. I said I was going to give you the last word. I'm going to still try to, but I'm going to say something before the last word. We have like 3 minutes. But one of my guests says, war is for the benefit and safety of the country. Slavery is for private interest. And then she says, no. I want to address that, and then we're going to really close. Guess what? Slavery benefited the U.S. as a whole, because guess what? According to the powers that be, they say we're the greatest nation of all nations, and we are the greatest, and we do thrive. And the USA as a whole definitely benefited from slavery. So yes, it was personal gain for those that were in power. So you can't say that war is benefit for the country and slavery is not beneficial for the country, because slavery did make the USA very powerful and very wealthy. And anytime you can get free slavery for over 400 years, you're going to be stronger than a whole lot of people around you. And although there was slavery in all parts of the world and on the planet, USA made it popular, famous, and no one did it the same way the USA did. And I'm not knocking that or making it good, bad, or ugly. I'm just stating something that's clear. So to answer the question, the guest just typed, yes, slavery is for private gain, so to speak. So is war. They're both the same. If you're being made to do something, whether it's slavery or go to fight, it's a dictatorship, and it is a form of slavery. So I'm going to leave that, and I'm really going to give you the last word. You got 99 and a half seconds, so please go ahead and take all the time you need. You're going to close us out.
And I do support that. I do see where the understanding is that two different platforms. They really are. and one is wider. The gap between them is wide. You know what I'm saying? It's totally wide. And I would even say the slave helped the United States to become the nation that it is. Okay, and many of the slaves would have rather gone to war than to have to serve as a slave. So though they are quite synonymous to each other, I think they do have their own platform, and I do support if you're being made to do something. Okay, if you're being made to do something against your will, that is a form. Okay, that is a form of slavery. But when we talk about the military, the real military in itself, I don't think they make us do that. And I could be wrong. I don't think they make us. I chose to volunteer. I volunteered. Okay, and that's just my point of view on that one.
Okay, I appreciate your input. I'd love to keep going, and I hope we can get to do it again. I love you, man. I really do. I appreciate you. I'm going to let you go. We'll definitely talk later in the week and hopefully again on another live stream. So with that being said, I'm going to let you go. Go find somebody you need to say I love you to, and don't just say it, but say it and show it, okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Have a good night. Appreciate you. 10-4. Okay, that's going to do it for another edition of Say What You Mean. It's the acronym, or SWIM is the acronym for Say What You Mean. Here's hoping you're having a wonderful evening and that you will have a great rest of the week. Do indeed find somebody that you need to say I love you to, and don't just say it, but show it, okay? I love you so much, and I appreciate you, and things are different for me. I'm going in a different direction. I'm excited about it, and I'm going to beef up my live stream and do some different things, and I'm excited about that. I'm definitely working on finishing out my book. Oh, that's going to be a stunner, and I'm going to start working on my third CD project, as well as some other things. I put on some weight over the last few months of stressing and worrying, but I'm going to try to get that under control again. It's been a roller coaster for me all my life, but I'm going to try to get it under control once again. I'll share some of those dietary tips that I do over and over again. That's another whole live stream. But anyway, take good care of yourself. Have a great night, and I love ya. Bye.